let's see here. Parks and Rec, no, yeah. Park, yeah. Yeah, with Mark Adams.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the director here at Sanderford Road. Just a couple of updates for you. Since last time we met, we had our Touch a Truck event here out in the parking lot. Some of you in the neighborhood might have saw had a couple of had a police car, fire truck, solid waste services were out here. So we had people from all over Raleigh come out to kind of just see our park. They did kind of an opportunity for them to come to our park, realize that we're here. We had 187 people come through on that Saturday to kind of experience that event and get to know some of the other things that we have going on here at the park. Upcoming here in October, we have Halloween season, so we have 2 Halloween events coming up. We have our Sanderford retreat event coming up on October 25th. That is a Friday, the last Friday in October. And actually on Halloween from 6 to 8 out in the parking lot, we will be doing our trunk or treat again this year. We are looking for some volunteers to kind of help us out with that. If any of you are interested in participating in that event, just have your vehicle out there with some candy so that when the kids come through, we have some trunks for them to kind of come through.
Can you repeat the name of the last Friday event?
The Sanderford or Treat event is the last Friday in October, October 25th. And that is from 6 to 8.
And what is that?
Sanderford or Treat. So it's basically just a carnival type of event here inside the building.
Okay.
That is an inside Halloween event, whereas Trunk or Treat is an outside out in the parking lot Halloween event.
Okay.
So that's like more community based, just your typical get candy. So again, if anybody is interested in participating in that, helping us out with that, please get in touch with me. You can decorate your vehicle. You can just pop your truck open and throw some candy in there. Either way, because kids are just looking for candy at that point, just a friendly face and candy. We did just have a STEM night this past Friday, working with digital inclusion, digital connectors group. So we had different robots and different technology STEM activities for the kids to do with that. So it's kind of a quarterly thing we've been doing here to kind of get the kids, the community, actual program, in doing some technology STEM-based programming. But again, if anybody wants to participate in any of those things and have any questions for me, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. RPD officer. Was that Sandy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Did everybody get a handout?
Yes.
Anybody need one?
I'll take it. I think I put 2 units in this one. If I need it.
Who else needs one? Anyone? Anyone? Yes, ma'am. And I'll make sure that they're back there in case anybody else wants to pick up any. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing fine.
I am excited to be here. So, as what we're looking at here, we are going to talk about some of the incidents. And if you look at the upper right-hand corner, it talks about that these are the incidents that were reported between September 16th and October 13th. And so you've got a couple, about 2 1/3 pages of the specific incidents. And then on the 3rd page, you'll see a little box that says South CAC comparison, and that is comparing the different categories from last month to this month and the percentage of change, as well as below that, the box below that is comparing 2018 to 2019. And then that final box at the bottom, I added, I don't see the woman who asked the question, but last time we were talking a little bit about the trends in the area. And so that's the 5-year comparison. As I was talking to the analyst that deals with this CAC, she explained that 10 years is pretty much too much data and would take a lot of time and effort to get through. So I said, can we at least try to do the 5 years? So we did that. So you've got that information there as well, since that was requested. So I think probably It's quite a bit different this time, isn't it? I know that the last month that we met, I think it was only one page. So we have a few more things going on here. I know another question that I get frequently is about the larcenies, which we had 23. But of those 23, 12 of them were shoplifting. And of all the shoplifting, they were almost all the same person who was arrested and is currently in the Wake County Detention Center. And then another thing that is happening quite a bit is cell phones. I don't know, this isn't usually the demographic that does this, it's usually the younger groups that are buying and selling things online, and they will arrange to meet somewhere, and I'm going to buy your cell phone, and then the person that comes to buy the cell phone just takes the cell phone out of your hand and runs away with it. So that's the other, a large group, I think, of the larcenies that have been reported in the last month. That's a big one. The larceny from a motor vehicle. This is another one that we've talked about, but this is a little bit different this month from the last month, because as we've talked about in the past, most of the time the vehicles are unlocked. This time only 25% of the vehicles were unlocked, which means 75% were locked, and they had to break a window in order to get in or jar somehow the door. But of the ones that were broken into, again, most of the time there's items specifically laying out that they see that they're targeting. So if you don't leave it out and you lock your car, I still think you're going to be okay with that. And again, don't leave any guns or purses, wallets in your vehicle anyway. The motor vehicle thefts are very misleading compared to how they have been reported. You've got repossessions in there, towed because they're not supposed to be on the street, out of other agencies. One of them was out of another agency. Unlocked with the key in the car was one of them, and then you have a situation with some mini dirt bikes that have been stolen recently. That's really about it. Does anybody have any questions for me, concerns?
I have just one.
Yes, sir.
Is South Wilmington Street supposed to be involved in here, included in here?
In this particular CAC?
Yes.
Not as far as I know.
I was just noticing one incident on the back of the first page at the bottom of the crime category. At the middle there, 2729 South Wilmington Street.
Yes, and that was involving because I think, if I'm remembering this one, I know it's involving like a credit card fraud situation. I think the person was actually living in the CAC, but the situation happened there. Oh. Every once in a while, things like that kind of get thrown in, and they're not really sure where. It's probably on somebody else's CAC as well. It's double duty. Good question. Anything else? Yes,
Do you know anything about the assault at 732 Bailey Drive? Was it involved?
Yes, it was a domestic situation. There was an arrest made. Anyone else? Either about this report or any other concerns that you have? Questions? Quiet group tonight.
You've done a fine job in the neighborhood of Adderley. So just continue doing what you're doing.
Well, my name and number is on your agenda here, so as you're going through this, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Just to kind of give you a little bit of warning, I am going to be in Italy on vacation for your next meeting, so you're going to have officer leave. Be nice. But let them know you don't like him as much as me. Because I am better. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, be safe.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Fabian.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good to see you again. It feels like months without seeing you guys.
Yeah, we did miss you last month,
Yeah.
right?
I think you guys had Eric, right?
Yeah.
Did he treat you good?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he used to be here years ago. Some of you might remember him, Eric Williams.
Yeah, he said he just referred everything to you.
Yeah. Yeah, typical. It was good to see you guys. We're almost done with summer, so the grass public nuisances have slowed down for us. We've been receiving more complaints about branches and limbs. People are doing the cleaning right now in their properties, disposing of old furniture. Just remember that the city will pick up your branches and limbs when they're bundled correctly. So the only thing you gotta do is just cut them about 5 feet long and about 18 inches wide and put them right by your trash cans. The city will pick that up. Every resident gets 4 bulky load pickup. That means that if you have a mattress, some furniture, a couple of appliances, the city will pick it up for you. The only thing they ask you is to call in advance and leave it by your trash can the day of your pickup, which for this area, the pickup is on Fridays, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so just leave it by Friday. So 4 times a year, you get that service for free. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of the branches and limbs pickup. You can also use, I think, 55-gallon containers or paper bags. They will pick up to 15 bags every week for you. So that's a good service to take advantage of. Are there any questions or concerns? Any addresses that you might have an issue with? Yes, ma'am.
I know there was controversy earlier in the year concerning the big leaf pickup that we send the vehicles around to pick up the leaves or suck them off the ground. Will that be continued? Because I know some of the council members were trying to get rid of it.
I was actually just trying to get some information about that to talk about it. It seems like we don't have a date right now of when it will get picked up. Let me do some research. Hopefully by the next meeting, which I think is November 4th, we're meeting next. Yeah. I'm sure I have a map for everybody and the schedule for this area leaf pickup. But always we ask the residents not to block the sidewalks or the streets, to put in that 18-inch, which I know is really narrow, but to try as much as possible not to block anybody's passage and not be unsafe by putting the leaves or the whole leaves on the pile on the street.
And I was just wondering if it was still enacted, because a lot of the leaves are coming from city planted trees.
Okay.
Also, as far as the trash cans, I know that our trash crew or sanitation crew is on a tight schedule, but sometimes in our neighborhood, I'm right in the Foxfire neighborhood, the trash cans are being left in the street where there possibly could be an accident, someone running into them.
Yeah, and they do that because there was some conversation in some earlier meetings here where they were asking us to put them on the curb, but you put them on the curb, but when you go back to get them, they're in the street.
Yeah.
So that is a concern that this code enforcement for solid waste services deals with big time. I was trying to find a direct number to the code enforcement employee that works this area. Her name is Miss Pam.
Not Adderley.
I don't have it with me, but if you call the solid waste department and complain about a specific address, they will send an inspector to check on that specific issue. I wish I had the number with me right now, but I don't have it. Let me see if I can give it to you. But actually I do have it. Her name is Pam. Her phone number is 919-368-0386. So leave her a message. She will get back to you. If you have an address handy, and you can even text her a picture. She will address it as soon as possible. So she's really good. But yeah, definitely, people are supposed to remove the trash cans from the right of way as soon as possible to avoid any accidents or any, disturbance of other citizens. So thank you for that.
Would she be the same one to contact over in our neighborhood, off Barner Road, coming up Callaway? Something was wrong with one of the trucks. So I don't know if it was oil or transmission fluid or something, but there were marks left. And I called and spoke with someone on a couple of occasions, and someone came out, but they like poured something gray on top of it. Which I don't know if that was supposed to absorb whatever, but it just made it look worse.
No, she wouldn't be the one for that.
Who would I contact?
It would have to be streets department. Streets. If you, I don't have the number. I don't think.
Street maintenance.
Yeah, street maintenance. Let me see if I have a number for them. Actually, I have a number for them too. 919-996-6446. So when you call, make sure you can almost pinpoint the location to the nearest intersection. So when they send an inspector out, they know exactly what to look for, in case it is an issue.
Well, it's up the whole street almost, so
Alright.
yeah, it's an area more than just like one address.
Okay.
Okay,
But yeah,
thank you,
just
though.
make sure to tell them the exact location. That way they can not go somewhere else and say nothing found.
On the City of Raleigh website, they said leaf pick up in this area the 12th of next month.
They say,
A leaf.
Leaf pick up, the first run is the 12th of November.
well, thank you.
Who gives that information again, Tam?
Yes. She is the code enforcement for solid waste services. And her phone number is
919-368-0386.
You said 3680.
386.
Thank you.
Does anybody else need a number? Listen,
State Street seems to be a constant problem as far as people dumping. Is there a way that maybe the city can consider putting maybe surveillance cameras so they can see who's actually doing the dumping on that street? There's sofas, there's tires, there's some of everything that's always left on that street, even though you all may come through and clean it up, within the next 2 or 3 days, there's some more.
Because there's also always an issue with the lighting on that street too.
Yeah.
they were out for a while, I think they're back now.
They'll come back and then they go back out. That's when a lot of that dumping
There's
is.
some problems with the lighting.
And the trees, there's a problem with those trees. There needs to be some inspection on those trees. I guess it's private property, and some of it may be city-owned. But some of those trees, after that last major storm, are starting to lean, and some are actually leaning on other trees. And it's just gonna take a good, strong storm to come through, and those trees are gonna fall over, because it's happened before.
So it seemed like it's a few problems at that street. My best suggestion would be to try to contact each department directly with the specific as you can possibly be. If you go on the city website, you can send messages for complaints. If you have the picture, and you don't do everything at once. I wouldn't do everything at once, but I would do different emails for each nuisance or problem. Then it will get sent to the department. It will get lost between you and the department. So take pictures. Maybe use Google Maps to take a specific spot that is the concern, and it will get sent to the code enforcement, public nuisance, or zoning, forestry, or solid waste services. So that will be my best suggestion to try to get some of those issues resolved as soon as possible.
Fabian, they can use that C-Click fix tool as well.
Yeah, I told about the lights for that, like the city.
I've heard that stretch is actually maintained by the state, so you might want to contact NCDOT. Yeah, I've just heard that's not really a city street.
Okay, last question, one other question. That it? Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. Good to see you.
We have, right before Pam, we have a young lady from the city come in and introduce herself. Are you the only one?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, thank you for having having me tonight. My name is Andrea Epstein. I'm with Department of Transportation Transit Division. So my focus right now is GoRaleigh. I'm their new communications lead. So I am trying to get out to all the CACs just to tell you all that I'm here. If you have questions, concerns, if you have presentations you would like our group to come present to you, again, just to let you all know I'm here. I'm new, and it's a new job. So I want you to know we're here. I have some flyers in the back regarding some BRT events that are coming up, and then our new routes today started for GoRaleigh. So we are now serving Garner, Knightdale, and Rollsville for peak hour and express services. So just a quick update on some things, but again, just more here to let you know I'm around if you need anything or have questions. So thank you.
If you have a call, please.
Yes,
I tell you what, the transportation, they all over town now, man. I
Yes.
think the bus routes increased
Yes.
up around overnight, they road up there. And I mean, you see the frequency change.
Yes.
So they're working on that very diligently to
Yeah.
make it work. So appreciate you guys for that.
Good, thank you.
Pam, take it away.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Just wanted to, I don't have much from our division, but Mr. Weeks, I spoke to him, and he wanted me to let you guys know what his suggestions would be for your your CAC awareness funds. So here's what he suggested, and he's also asked for your suggestions. He would like to get an additional pole and ground stake for the second banner that you all have. You see that one is already out here. One of the feather banners is already out here, but you guys remember you have two. And so he'd like to purchase an additional pole and a ground stake so that they can both be placed different areas. And that is $130. And it also comes with a carrying case. He would like to use $225 for a winter social. So you guys always have your social around December, right? So he's suggesting $225 to be used for that. And a spring social, $300 for that. And so I'm thinking they're somewhere near Easter time. And then there's $345 left that he's looking for suggestions from you guys. So are you guys in agreement with the amounts and the items that he would like to use the funds for? Or do you have other suggestions instead of that? And do you have suggestions for the $345 that's left? So if you are in agreement with all of the suggestions that he had, that's the pole and the ground stake, the winter and the spring socials, raise your hand if you're in agreement with that.
Yeah, what is $25 approximately for that whole banner?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, $25 that's additional.
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, so if you agree with that, you're fine with it, raise your hand.
Of course, but the banner that you're talking about, what exactly is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you weren't here, I'm sorry. Right. So if you weren't here when your banners were presented, the feather banner, you see one outside here, right in front of the building.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it. Okay, so there's one out there. You guys have two of those. One says it advertises that you guys are here every second Monday of the month, and then the other says that the meeting is here next Monday. Okay, so he would like to have them both in separate places. So that's $130. So initially, what Mr. Rodman is speaking of, initially he put $25 down for that. But after speaking with him, I explained that pole was a lot more expensive. So it's actually $130. So if you guys are in agreement with that, if you could raise your hand, and I will do a quick count of that, and then we'll do any opposed, and then abstentions, and then we can talk about the other money. So if you're in agreement with Mr. Weeks' suggestion, raise your hand. You had your hand up too, Mr. Rodman? All right, so that's 18. 18-4. Any opposed to those suggestions? Okay. Any abstentions? Anybody just didn't want to vote?
That's good.
All right, now for the $345 remaining, do you have any suggestions for how you like to spend that money? Yes, ma'am.
The deadline date for us to use those funds.
June 30th. But it has to, the new fiscal starts July 1st, so it has to be spent, I think the first week in June. Okay, you have to have used it by then. You can use it, by that end of June, but it just has to be paid for. Okay, any suggestions for how to spend the remaining $345?
Do we have any kind of function left to use that too?
That's up to you all. You can use it.
Okay.
If you all want to have another function, you can certainly use it for that. Yes, Cyrus.
Can we put the money into one of the existing functions and just make it nicer?
You can. Okay. All right. So Cyrus has a suggestion. How many people are for beefing up the functions that Mr. Weeks already suggested? How many people are for that? If you are, raise your hand.
Where are the functions going to be held?
Here. Now they don't have to be here. You all can decide to use a different site if you want.
Maybe we should get back on that before the
Okay, so here's the thing. Remember we talked maybe like a few months ago that your budget had to be in by the end of September. So, but I went back and asked for more time. You all remember that?
Yeah.
There was some more time.
Can you work on it to November?
Okay, so off the camera, we're yes, I will be back next month.
Appreciate it. Let's see, we have now proposed project update. Haven developers. Haven developers in the house. Haven developers.
Is that is Isabell, Mattox's project, or Beth? Not you, Beth.
That's a multi-family project.
Isabell's the second one on the agenda.
No, this is the Walkway Road.
Yeah. That was a gentleman, I think. It was two of them.
She's gonna bring an update.
Oh, I know who they are. Remember the gentleman and the young lady who were here, and they were talking about the project, and you all wanted more information. So that's who that is, but they're not here.
Okay. We'll move that on the schedule for next one. Z2919, Walkway Road, Pearl Road.
That's us. Tell me where you want us to stand.
Get in the limelight.
I was so totally want to be on the line.
Oh, you got to go there. You got to go.
I didn't have on makeup.
You got to go.
TV. Good evening, everyone. My name is Isabell Mattox. I'm an attorney here tonight representing Evergreen Construction, and I'm here with our development team. Tim Morgan, back here in the pink shirt. He is point man for this development. And then we have Rick Baker in the check shirt, who is our engineer. He's of Timmons Group. And our architect was supposed to be here, but she got sick and couldn't make it. So she said, I bet you they'd rather me not come than come and get them sick. We said, good call. So anyway, we have some slides that we're going to click up, and I'm going to show you. This development is near the intersection of Rock Quarry and Pearl Roads. And we're in the South CAC. We're right on the line. We actually went to the Southeast CAC last week. We're in your CAC. Y'all have the vote. They may also vote, but we thought they're close enough to go to them as well as your group. So the proposal is for it's a rezoning case. We're proposing RX3, so 3 stories max. RX is a residential mixed use. We're going to do a senior affordable housing development, age restricted to 62 years and older, and propose 84 units for this site. It's about 8 acres. And once we get the graphics up and show you more specifically where it is. 55, we moved it to 55 and older, so that will catch a few more of you who might be eligible.
Is it 62 or 55?
55,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
And how many units did you say?
84. Okay, so this is to give you an idea of where this is 3 lots. You can see coming north-south is Rock Quarry, and coming kind of sort of east-west is Pearl.
You have a pointer.
Oh, I have a pointer on this too. Cool, okay. There's Pearl, and here's Rock Quarry. Neat little device. So that's location, and yes, we're increasing the density somewhat. It's R4 now, and we're going to RX, which really doesn't have a density cap. But what the density we're proposing is about 10 units to the acre, which is fairly similar to the density back in this neighborhood right here. And there's a project that's going up right across the street that has a similar zone to what we're requesting. We think it makes sense for this location because it's in a, because it's on 2 fairly well-traveled thoroughfares. It's near transit, not far from goods and services, and again, it will be senior and affordable. I'm going to call Rick Baker. Just here's a little bit more about the site. It's just a zoning map that shows the different zoning categories in the area. And Rick's going to talk a little bit about our proposed site layout.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Rick Baker and I'm with the Timmons Group. We're the engineers on this project. And a few things I wanted to point out, and I'm sure there'll be some questions, so happy to answer those as well. As Isabell pointed out, here's Pearl Road through here, and then Rock Quarry Road in this direction, and Barwell Road right here. One thing I wanted to point out that the city of Raleigh has a project in design currently to realign Pearl Road close to where this dash line is. So that intersection will line up with Barwell, and that'll be a signalized intersection. Anybody that's traveled, particularly on Pearl Road in rush hour in the evening, if you're trying to turn left, that's a tough turn to make. So once that project is designed and constructed, that signalized intersection, that will drastically improve traffic.
Will Pearl Road be widened when they do that?
I believe it's going to, at the intersection, I believe it's going to be a 3-lane.
Just at the intersection?
Just at the intersection. They're 25% completed with design now, so that could change. And there'll be some public meetings coming up on the city website. As of last week, they hadn't published any public meeting dates, but please be on the lookout for that. And they definitely want the public's input on that.
So you're anticipating that road being complete before your project, or vice versa?
There'll be some overlap in construction, but with the funding, this project would have to be completed by December 31 of 2022, and their proposed completion is these improvements here is 2023. So we would be a little bit ahead of those road improvements there. With our design here, this is not an approved design by the city of Raleigh. We have to go through the rezoning process before we can submit before a site plan approval. So this is a layout based on what we know with Raleigh code, and we've also talked to Raleigh staff in multiple departments. So it's not exact, but it's a close representation of what we propose. Normally, we would have the building a little closer to Rock Quarry Road, but as you may have noticed, there's a bunch of cabinets on that corner right there. That's a telephone easement that AT&T has, and so we can't put a building on top of their cabinets because there's an easement there. So that forces us to put the building a little further back. But what that does is make a little nicer lawn area between the building and Rock Quarry Road. So we think that'll look nice. We're proposing 2 driveways, one onto Pearl Road about this location here, and then one on the Rock Quarry Road and about that location right there. We're proposing to put our stormwater pond. We have to treat stormwater. This is a low side of the site, so it'd be somewhere in this area here. And one thing we would be proposing to meet what Raleigh calls block perimeter is a 10-foot pedestrian path connecting at Apperson Drive and going out to Rock Quarry Road, then over to Pearl Road as well to help pedestrian connectivity, particularly with this improved intersection, people being able to walk across, and there's a Balwell Community Center up in this area over here. Did want to talk about traffic briefly, and then we'll come back to the building elevations. Here's some numbers here that we generated. This is called a trip gen, and what we compared is, as it's on today, somebody could come in and build a single family subdivision and it would hold up to 32 single family homes. And these are the total daily trips, cars coming in and out of that development. And then at the AM rush hour and the PM rush hour, then we compared this to a senior housing facility like we're talking about here, and we showed 88 units. That's what the zoning would allow, even though we're only planning 84. But you can see the traffic numbers are lower.
Call those out too, because they're hard to see.
Sure, they're lower with the senior housing than with the regular single family development. And what they are, the total daily for the single family is 364 trips a day. And then the senior housing would be 328 trips a day. At the AM rush hour in the single family would be 28 trips. In the senior development, 17 trips. And then in the PM rush hour, 34 trips for the single family and 23 trips for the senior housing development.
What sort of algorithm do you use to come up with those numbers?
There are standards set by the International Transportation Association, I think is what the group is called, and they have standards for different uses, whether it's single family, based on typical number of bedrooms, apartments, whether senior apartments or regular, retail, restaurant, gas station, those types of things. So they have certain standards that development would generate so many trips a day based on that use.
They have this. They can analyze traffic all over the country, and they have this IT manual that you look up a use and it tells you what the typical traffic for that type of development would be. So I mean, is it?
But you're talking about what, 32 homes you say in a single family dwelling?
Well, we're not proposing that.
You're talking about 320-something trips a day?
Yes, average day, in and out. Number of cars in and out. It could be, school buses coming in and out. It kind of encompasses every vehicle coming in and out of that neighborhood. Yes, ma'am.
Would you, as a developer, be required to put in a third lane, a turn lane, and so it's not impeding the traffic that's going straight south on Rock Quarry? I know you had to turn in onto Pearl Road, but for those that want to turn in on the Rock Quarry Road side, would you have a designated turn lane?
We have met with the City of Raleigh transportation staff, and we are waiting to hear back from them on what improvements to Rock Quarry Road would be required of this development, if any. So we're waiting to hear back from them. And there will also be discussions with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, because they actually own Rock Quarry Road. So we're a long way from getting all those things worked out at this point, but we've started those discussions, yes.
Did you look at any of those sites in Raleigh to do this?
Tim Morgan,
Tim Morgan, I should have called him before, Rick, but he's going to tell you generally about it. He can talk to you about what his site selection process is.
Good evening. As Isabell said, I'm Tim Morgan with Evergreen Construction Company. We are a Raleigh-based development, construction, and management company. We've been around since 1978, and we specialize in the affordable housing arena, primarily with rental units. but we do build some single-family products downtown Raleigh in a neighborhood called East College Park right now. But to the gentleman's question, do we have other sites in Raleigh? We have 46 communities in our portfolio, which is just over 2,000 units. And we have about half of that is in Wake County. And so yes, we have developed multiple senior communities across Raleigh itself. And we also have a site on Buck Jones Road that we will be submitting as a senior community as well. So yes, we chose this location because of its proximity to the amenities that are just down the road where the food line is. You've got the Barwell Community Center across from that as well. You've got a pharmacy nearby. And so it checks all the boxes for the types of properties and locations that we want to do. As Isabell said, this is a 3-story, age-restricted community, 55 years of age and older. It'll have 42 one-bedroom units that are 660 square feet, and it'll have 42 two-bedroom units that are just over 900 square feet. We'll have rent set aside at 30, 40, 50, and 60% of the area median income. And our typical resident profile is someone that's 67 years of age, single, female, with about 22,000 in income, which consists of Social Security and a small pension. So within the building, we also have common areas that are for the residents' use, things such as an exercise room, multi-purpose room, a computer room, fitness center, seating areas, lobby, TV room. The building is it's a self-contained building. As the residents leave the building, there are 4 doors. They are self-locking, so the resident would need to have their key fob on them to be able to gain entrance back into the building. It is also served by a call panel entry system. So if the residents have a guest, they can plug in the unit number, and then the resident can hit a button within inside their building or inside their unit, and it'll let the door open so the resident can then go in and go to their unit. It's also obviously sprinkled building, so there's a fire alarm system that is monitored 24 hours a day. So fire and EMS are contacted should one of the sensors go off.
And what would be your projected cost for the I guess you say 1,100 and 900 square foot units? The 41 and 42, 42, 42?
Yeah, it's 660 square feet for a 1-bedroom.
660?
Yes, sir. And our 2 bedrooms are 900 square feet. So our rents range on a 1-bedroom, 400, 500, 600, 700. And the 2-bedroom.
On the one bedroom?
Yes, sir.
4 to 7?
Yes, sir. 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on the 2-bedroom, 475, 575, 675, 775. In the rent includes trash and water and sewer. Each resident would be responsible for paying their own Duke Energy Progress bill, as well as if they wanted phone or cable or internet.
Those prices, since they're all the same footage, is it based on location or income?
It's the latter. We have units set aside at 30% of median, 40% of median, 50, and 60. We would also be applying for loan funds through the city of Raleigh. They have dollars. They passed a penny for housing, and so that's what this is for. And Wake County did the same thing a couple of years ago. So we'd be applying for money through Wake County also. The credits that we sell off to investors, those flow through the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency.
Any other questions?
Where are some of your other locations in the area?
We have in Wakefield. If you come across anything that says something spring, that's usually us. So we have Wakefield Spring. Yes, sir. So off of New Hope Road, we have Terrace Spring. Over in that same area, we have Autumn Spring, which is off of Traywood Road. As I said, Wakefield Spring is in the Wakefield community. We have Huntington Spring, which is in Wake Forest. We have,
I think I've seen them out of Wakefield.
yes, sir.
Timber Spring and Garner.
Thank you. Timber Spring and Garner, Silver Spring and Zebulon. We have Garden Spring in Raleigh, Meadow Spring in Raleigh.
Amber Spring will be opening soon in Raleigh.
Thank you. Amber Spring, Rick knows it better than I do, because Rick and I have been working together for years on this. We're building Ryan Spring in Geri. We've got Weatherstone Spring already in Geri. We've got Lion Spring in Clayton.
EvergreenConstructionCompany.com, is that?
Yeah, www.evergreenconstructionco.com, and you can see our entire portfolio.
What was that again?
EvergreenConstructionCO.com. We, as I said, been around since '78. We've got just over 50 employees. Most of our portfolio is in a 45-minute radius of Raleigh, so we can get to things pretty quickly.
Any other questions? We move right along.
Just to sum up the zoning process, where we are, you know, as I mentioned, we met with this Southeast CAC, meeting with you guys tonight. We have the second meeting in November with each of the CACs. We'll go to the Planning Commission. Mr. Belk from the city has just told me tonight that we probably will go October 22nd, but they won't be ready to take a vote because they want to hear from you guys. And so we probably will be going for a voting meeting in November, either the 5th or the 19th, probably the 19th. And then it would get to council probably in January. So, you know, we don't know how long any of those processes are going to take because they put it in committee or whatever. So we're thinking January, February will be in city council.
Okay, when you contact, the city and the county, you contact the people in terms of widening the road, will you have any information on that during that time?
Possibly. Mr. Baker will be monitoring that situation to figure out what if they have more info.
It's in definite need of widening the road as you started, Jesse Jones South Road, going out through there. And I see what that alignment you're talking about was. All that's going to be necessary. So if you can work hard at trying to get that in place, that's going to be one of the key factors.
We'll try to find out what we can, you know.
Do the best you can.
Yes, sir.
I need a card from one of you guys. Yeah. So that's it.
That's it for us, unless you guys have any more questions.
Thank you.
Okay, now, who's the gentleman here?
Mr. Chair, I'm Don Belk with City Planning, and I'd be happy to follow this up with just a very brief presentation about the zoning process, just so folks understand how that operates. It's similar to presentations that you may have seen before, but I do have a couple of slides I'd like to present just related to this case, just for a little bit more information.
We have time for that?
Is it? Oh, that's mine. That's yours. I don't, that one is not up, but all right, I don't know where it is because it's not showing.
Maybe we have to forego that for the night.
No. All right. I'm sorry. Are you okay with me extracting it because it's not showing that it's?
You okay with her just pulling out?
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh sure.
Okay. All right. And this is you, Don. All right. You have your clicker?
I do.
All right.
All right. All right, thank you, Pam. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Don Belk with City Planning. I just want to talk a little bit about the zoning process and how it relates to this case. Zoning, and I know some of you probably heard this presentation before, but zoning is the local law that regulates land use in the city of Raleigh. Talks about things about the shape of the lot, size of the lot, what type of buildings can be put there. As Ms. Mattox mentioned, this property is currently zoned R4, and she and her team have requested to the city to change that. So basically, it's going to be changing the law, and that will affect 3 parcels that are part of this request. And typically, those rezonings are brought to us at the request of the property owner. However, sometimes the city will initiate a rezoning, but mostly it's landowners coming forward because they desire a change of use in their property.
What would be the new designated zoning for this property?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna go through that in some detail. But the zoning ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance in Raleigh, the 2 parts. There's a zoning map. Every parcel in the city has a zoning designation. And then the text, which in Raleigh's case includes illustrations to give you a sense of an idea of what the form in that zoning will be. Now, I'll talk a bit about zoning conditions, because typically in most rezoning cases that come into the city are conditional use, meaning that the applicant is offering to do something above and beyond what's required by the zoning. And there's that applies in this case as well. We'll talk a bit about it. Those voluntary offerings by the applicant, though, they have to be more restrictive than what's in the code already. Those conditions then become, if it's approved, they become part of that law for that particular property. Here is another example or aerial map of the site. You're all familiar with that by now. I would mention, David mentioned that Pearl Road and Barwell Road are slated to be aligned. Rock Quarry is designated to eventually become a 4-lane divided avenue. That is in the city street plan. And they're, as he mentioned, they're currently in discussions with the city about what their particular requirements are going to be for improving Rock Quarry Road. The surrounding area, the Corey Trace Apartments, of course, are underway. So these aerials are dated a little bit. You got the Barwell Parking Community Center here, the Pearl Ridge subdivision, and the larger Abingdon Ridge subdivision. That includes the single-family homes here as well as the townhomes. You've got some commercial activity going on. You've got a small shopping center up here with the Dollar General, and then the shops at Battle Bridge with more retail and services. This is the existing zoning for Z29, 8 acres, currently zoned R4. They are requesting the zoning of residential mixed use, the RX, 3, meaning a maximum height of 3 stories, and CU, meaning that they are offering conditions attached to the case. So we would refer to this as RX3CU. If this rezoning is approved, it will also constitute a change to the city's future land use map. The future land use map is part of the city's comprehensive plan, the 2030 comprehensive plan, which reflects the city's overall vision of how it wants to grow and look like in the years to come. The future land use map is not a regulatory map at all, but it's a guidance for the city in determining how it wants to grow. So presently, this area is shown to be designated for low-density residential. Keep in mind, this map was produced originally about 10 years ago. So conditions change. More development occurs along the highway. Naturally occurring growth. Raleigh's been growing fast over the last decade. So that can influence requests to develop, requests to rezone, and in some cases the future land use map would be amended. However, it would change, but it would add to the areas already designated as moderate density residential. In terms of numbers, low density residential is everything from 1 unit to the acre up to 6 units to the acre. Presently, it's the zoning is 4 units to the acre. The moderate density residential designation would take us from 6 units to the acre to 14 units to the acre under the moderate density residential. And the RX zoning that they requested then would fall, that would fall in line with that moderate density residential. And as we mentioned, the commission will hear this case on the 22nd of October, but I understand the applicant may request a deferral in order for to get the vote of the CAC in November. And just an aerial view showing the site and how it's situated. This is looking northwest on Rock Quarry Road at the site. There's presently a home site there. This is another view looking southwest along Pearl Road and another home site on this property as well. As far as uses, the current R4 allows a single-family residential, and there's also a couple of different forms of this, conservation development and compact development that are also part of this, but those require a larger percentage of preserved open space. R4 can also, you can also have parks there, open space, greenways. You could also put an outdoor sports or entertainment facility in R4, less than 250 seats. And it would allow minor utilities, utility structures, I believe telecommunications towers would be permitted, but those would require a special use permit, a little bit more complicated. Now under the R3, as I mentioned, this is residential mixed use. That also includes all of these things, single family duplexes, multi-unit living, as well as the cottage courts type of development. So all of those, if this rezoning were approved, all of those could be built on the site.
But it takes away the parks and the open space.
It does, as far as it could be a by right. They could put those uses there, but more than likely, with that designation, they're looking for something a little more intensive. Now, even though RX will allow for different housing types, the applicant has offered conditions, and they have stated that this will be an age-restricted community. Now, that could be the 3-story apartment building as they have shown. But it could be those other forms. But they have also said that they want to limit density. So we're expecting that they're going to build an apartment building, and these conditions can give us a pretty good indication that that's what's going to be built there. And oftentimes, I will say, zoning conditions can get very specific as to what requirements are. Things like landscaping and facades, building appearance. I've seen all of these different things offered in conditions. So it's really, that's something that the applicant, again, will offer on their own. So one condition, of course, that it has been specified that this will be an age-restricted community. It's also been specified, one other condition is that this development, RX3CU, this particular development will prohibit retail and restaurant uses. Now, the reason that that's there is because in RX, there is a small allowance, I believe it's 4,000 square feet, for development of this type. Could have 4,000 square feet of either a retail use or office use or some combination thereof that would serve a small cafe perhaps that could serve the apartment building. However, in this case, they have voluntarily agreed to remove that from consideration. And they've also specified a maximum density of the site, maximum of 90 units, which equates to about 11 units per acre. And I believe they indicated that they would actually hope to build fewer than that, about 84. That's kind of how the zoning and the future land use map relate to the proposal that you just heard. You're probably all by now familiar with this process. We have met with the applicant. They've held their pre-application conference. They've already conducted their neighborhood meeting. Some of them may have been present for that. They are required to notify everyone within a 500-foot radius of their proposal. They have to have that meeting before they actually apply. So they have done that. And now tonight we are at this step. They've presented tonight. They'll come back for a vote in November. Staff has initially reviewed the proposal. We have provided comments to the applicant. And we'll be having discussions with the applicant this week. There may be some modifications to the conditions they've offered, but we'll see. And we're preparing our report. And again, this will go forward to the Planning Commission on October 22nd, although it's likely to be deferred, as I mentioned. Now, everyone within 500 feet of that proposal has gotten a letter from the city that this is taking place and indicating that this will be heard at the October 22nd Planning Commission meeting. So, Planning Commission will have until about 90 days. I think they'll have until early in January to make a recommendation on this case, and then it'll go to City Council. And City Council will make the final decision. Once it gets to that point, there will be a public hearing at the City Council meeting, and they will, at that point, City Council could approve it, they could deny it, they could refer it to a committee, but they have the final say. These stars here all indicate opportunities for citizen input. So it's important to understand that the reason that the applicants come before the CAC is to present their proposal to you and to get feedback from you, to answer your questions, etc. Planning Commission, same thing. That those meetings are open to the public. Invite you to come on down. If you drive, we'll validate your parking. Certainly the public is invited to these, and the City Council meeting as well.
So lastly, where would the meeting take place?
The Planning Commission meeting, all of the meetings will take place at the City Council chambers, at the Raleigh Municipal Building, at the intersection of Margate Street and Dawson. I should know this. The Raleigh Municipal Building. I think the street address is 222 Hargett.
That's it.
That's indicating that this is where we are tonight, so still a ways to go on this proposal. And again, this is my contact information, my email address. Please feel free. I'm the case planner for this particular proposal, so please feel free to call or send me an email. Send me an email, or if you want to call me, I got my business cards as well. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Don. Thank you, man.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Beth Trahos. I'm an attorney with Nelson Mullins here tonight on behalf of Halley Companies in regard to the Old Town subdivision. I recognize many of the faces here, and hopefully you may remember me. I think we were here March, April, and May of this year. So I'm just here to give you a 2-minute update. I promised your chair that I would be very brief. When we were here this spring, we told you that since the Halley Companies had acquired the residential portion of Old Town, the roughly 515 acres at the intersection of Rock Quarry and South New Hope Road, so really just down the road from the Pearl Road project you just heard about, that they would like to tweak a few of the conditions that were previously approved. And so they're going through a text change process, not a rezoning. The zoning district will remain the same, but they will hope to alter some of the zoning conditions. And what we told you about this spring is exactly what we have applied to the city to do. The changes were to increase the number of permitted apartments from 300 to 360 units, and to make those units available to anyone, so that they would not be solely age restricted, but they would be available to families and singles and others. And then also a commitment that is not in the current zoning, that there would be 100 senior focused units. So there would be a commitment that at least 100 units for those aged 55 and older would be constructed as a part of the project. And then the final change is just, when we were doing the initial zoning case, the city of Raleigh had a plan for the greenway that showed the greenway location sort of through the center, following the creek in the center of the site. Since then, they have altered the greenway plans such that a connection will actually be made along Barwell Road. And so the third change is simply to conform with that change that the city of Raleigh has made. That that we will build a greenway that connects with the city's plan for the remainder of the site. So those are the three changes that we're coming to the city council to request. We are just here to give you an update, as we were this spring, and to answer any questions you might have about it. Well, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have a projected date? Starting the construction?
Well, I would actually tell you that in the broader community, because there are existing approvals, they're out there now. They have grading permits, mass grading permits, and what they're actually doing is checking the infrastructure that was installed when the project first began development back in, I think, 2008-ish. So they're going through and checking, the water pipes that were installed, and I think there's some sewer infrastructure and things to see whether those things are usable. I know that in the course of that initial sort of due diligence, that some of the fire hydrants were draining water. So we know some of the pipes work, but so you will see them beginning to do the initial grading work. This project is moving forward, so things will be coming out of the ground soon.
You did say from 300 to 360.
Yes, sir.
And what's that give you as far as number of units per acre?
So we're not changing the total number of units permitted. So already there's 1,700 units permitted. That would be the total that would be allowed, even though 60 more of them could be apartments if the text change is approved. And my recollection of the density on the total site, 515 acres, under 4 units to the acre. So we appreciate your time. If you think of something or have questions, I hope you will reach out to me. Certainly, Mr. Rodman knows how to get up with me, and we've been more than happy to come back if you're not sick of seeing us. So, thank you.
Thank you so very kind. If we don't have any other business,
everybody, please remember to sign in.
Yeah.
Because all of the data is being collected by the city for the city's website, and in the future you'll be able to see how many folks in your area attend your CAC versus any other CAC. So please sign in. The sign-in sheets are still out front.
okay, we have some bags if anyone doesn't have any.
And the books.
And the books.
Yes.
If you need a notebook, pad, and you need a bag.
Can I have a bag?
You certainly will, certainly can. A notebook as well. You need a pad.
Yes.
Are you adjourned? Are you adjourned?
Yeah. The meeting is adjourned unless I say that.